Good morning and welcome to the conversation. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas holiday or happy winter solstice, Hanukkah, as I like to say, just to make sure I cover all the bases. Uh, you can catch me every week on Thursday at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9:30 Eastern Time, and of course my written word every Monday on globalwealthprotection.com. So today's episode is all about libertarian controversies. I guess it could also be construed as libertarian drama, but it's a flushing out of ideas, and sometimes and emotions get high and all of that, and we're human, so I like to be a little forgiving on that, just because I'd rather hear the ideas, and I'd rather have them out there than to suppress them simply because somebody sounds whiny or somebody sounds jealous or whatnot. I don't, whatever the allegations are. Um, but I had a little bit of technical difficulty earlier. My computer was apparently undergoing some updates, and I don't know how the Venus Project even could imagine a world run on computers, just given my small empirical experience with it. But I apologize for being late. Just wanted to say that as well. So I believe there was at one point the big blowout between Chris Cantwell and Antonio Bueller. Okay. And I kind of watched that going back and forth. I wasn't and am not a huge follower of either, but they are apparently heavy hitters within the movement, such as it is. They're one of the many pieces of corn you can find in it. and they do that. And basically it probably boiled down to something to, libertarian brutalism versus libertarian humanism. I tend not to be on the tactful side. Okay, I mean, anybody who knows me will probably be the first to run to the plate and say, "Oh yeah, she's hardly the diplomatic type," and admittedly, I lack it. It's like a gene I lost or didn't get. What I have in hair, I lack in tact. So there's that. But so I'm inclined to favor the brutalist side, and the brutalist side mainly because it's a no holds barred thing. I mean, it's kind of like a Scud missile. You know, you're going to fire it off, and you can't really control where it goes. And the collateral damage could be many, but at least the idea gets fired off, and you have to kind of sift through some of the shit and some of the crassness. But in the end of the day, at least the ideas are out, right? Whereas the humanist side can be a little bit more touchy-feely, and the feels get on my nerves after a while. It's fine. I understand we all have them, but I think it's each person's individual responsibility to worry about their own feelings as opposed to imposing on an entire group of people or a whole society to say, please be mindful of my own feelings. I think common courtesy is nice. I'm generally a respectful person, but I'm certainly not going to censor or cater or tailor my message for the sake of somebody's feelings. Okay. I haven't, and I won't. Yeah, if I won't do it for my own family, then I certainly won't do it for anybody else. So there's that. So anyway, that blew up, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, the drama." Well, it turns out that it's just two dudes flexing their nuts, and one's flexing their left nut and one's flexing their right nut, and both have their merits. But at the end of the day, I didn't feel like there was even a side to take. I mean, if you're going to tell me to choose between two testicles, I, what am I supposed to say? I favor the left. I don't know, but they both had their merits. But at the end of the day, I favor. It's not because Chris Cantwell had any was saying anything particularly profound. He was being defensive and offensive, and I'm not qualifying that as right or wrong, but I don't think that there was much to sell himself on in that. It was just a matter of, okay, what is your personal preference? And I prefer more speech rather than less speech, even at the expense of people's feelings. Okay, so it can be a minefield for fields, a minefield, and that's fine. Then there was the whole issue with Chris Cantwell and his run-ins with the FSP. Okay. And again, I find myself, regardless of whether I agree with the man, I found myself defending him on some level. I don't really follow his work too much. I've read a couple of his articles, and that's about it. Okay. And the ones that I've read have not left an indelible impression. But I feel like it's a lot of choir preaching, and some people need to be edified in their message, and that's or maybe perhaps he articulates it better than others. I don't know. But I remember thinking to myself, I remember reading about it and reading what the big issue was and the whole, shooting someone over a paperclip thing. And I read it, and I get it. Would I shoot someone over a paperclip? No, probably. Do I think someone's justified in it? No, I don't. Any more than I feel that the cops are justified in half the brutal shit that they do. But nonetheless, I felt that it was a valid challenge to our understandings of the NAP. I felt like that was a great starting point for an open conversation about what the NAP entails. Right? Here is a great opportunity for the libertarian movement in New Hampshire, albeit a political one, to still step up to the plate and say something about the NAP, address that, and how apparently it is open to interpretation. Here's our interpretation of it. Here's Cantwell's. Here's a free exchange of ideas. This is how a free society operates, right? We open exchange the ideas. It's brutal as it is at the end of the day. We respect one another, etc. This is what I really thought. I really thought that this was going to be a kumbaya moment for the libertarian movement. And it was such an opportunity. And God damn it, the FSP decided to just pussy up and ostracize them. And I thought to myself, Jesus, why? What the hell are you doing? Here you have, here it is, just an idea. And you guys decide, the FSP decides to marginalize them and ostracize them and ban them from pork fests, etc. Horrible move on their part. Horrible move on their part. Seriously, whatever respect or regard I had for the Free State Project, I lost it when they handled that particular situation that way, in that manner. It has nothing to do with whether you agree with Chris Cantwell. It's that how do you handle people you disagree with? And apparently they can't. And it was just a pussy move. End of story. So as far as I'm concerned, the Free State Project is just another political action committee, who's politically posturing itself. It just happens to be representing the Libertarian Party, which is sad because of the amount of support and amount of press and amount of assistance it has received, an amount of backing it has received from voluntarists and anarchists alike. That was a huge shot in the foot, I think. I think it was just pathetic. And so the recurring theme of Chris Cantwell continues. And this is not supposed to be about Chris Cantwell. He just happens to be there. It's kind of like going through time, and every event that you're talking about, there's this recurring character. He happens to be that guy. So, and again, this has nothing to do with Chris Cantwell himself. And this doesn't even have to do necessarily with his writing per se. He just happens to be doing things within the movement that catches people's eyes and draws a little controversy. Okay, so here we are again. And MK Lords released this notorious and quite delicious, I would like to say, piece criticizing these lovely sacred cows within the liberty movement, okay, which I thought was just awesome. I don't think it was awesome because it was a literary masterpiece. It's not her seminal work, okay? I'm sure she's had better. She went on and said as much on air. I think it was on Free Talk Live. So, it's not about that. Okay, it wasn't because it was an amazing piece of prose. It wasn't because it was necessarily accurate. Even that's not why I found it delicious. If I wanted something, deliciously factual, I'd go look up a statistic. I'd go read a science book. This has nothing to do with that. This was her calling out some pretty heavy hitters within the liberty movement and taking them down a few notches. Now, was what she said 100% accurate? Probably not. A lot of it was conjecture, a lot of it was opinion based, and a lot of it was just, her personal feelings at the moment when she wrote it. I don't know these people personally, so it's hard for me to say that some, and honestly, I haven't followed them closely enough to know if she's right or wrong on some of the matters that she brought up. And I'm not even going to discuss whether it's true or not, or whether I agree with her or not. And the reason why I gave you the whole preface with Chris Cantwell is to bring me to this point. And that is, I didn't have to agree with Chris Cantwell in order for me to defend him. Okay. It wasn't about specifically what he's said with any merit. Okay. It's not the merit of Chris Cantwell. It was the merit of the position. Okay. And the position in his case was, in the case of him, Cantwell versus Bueller, it was brutalism versus humanism, and it made more sense to defend that which is, offensive just for the sake of saying at least the idea is out there, than to side with the side that was saying censor yourself or or tailor your message a little better. Okay. I don't like that. I didn't like the idea, and so I defended the brutalism. Not necessarily what was being said under that umbrella, just the brutalism itself. Then it came down to Cantwell and in the FSP, I defended the fact that his was as valid an idea as any other idea, and it was worth the discussion and worth the conversation. And I called out the FSP as saying, "You pussied out. You should have taken the opportunity to have the discussion, and you didn't. It was a pussy move on your part." And you've done it before too. They've done it before on various other occasions, especially to do with firearms in their demonstrations. So this is not their first pussy move, but it was certainly one that was brought to the forefront for me anyway. Okay, not defending specifically Cantwell's position on the shooting in the paperclip situation and that scenario. I wasn't defending anything that he said. I defended the fact that that was an opportunity rather than, an opportunity for discourse rather than an opportunity to marginalize and ostracize and cleanse the movement. Okay, he certainly didn't make any statist propositions. Certainly wasn't anything that ran contrary to the libertarian principles. It doesn't matter whether I agree with him. Okay? And now comes MK Lords versus Chris Cantwell et al. And I will say the same thing. It's not about whether I agree with MK Lords. It's about her position. And I like it. I like that she finally brought it, that she was one of the first people to come out and just openly, not just on a thread buried somewhere on somebody's private page on Facebook with all these privacy settings that you can't see. She openly went out, published a piece on the internet and circulated it. And maybe she did. Actually, I don't think she did. She didn't expect it to be that popular. I think I saw it. I didn't even see it on her page. I saw it because Josie Wells had circulated it, and I saw it on her timeline, and it happened to pop up on my thread. I mean, the odds, but it did nonetheless hit the roof, and she came out and openly criticized people that otherwise have a following of gaga behind them. These are pretty big names, and some of them are kind of prima donnas in the movement. Okay, I mean, some of them are just a little bit and deserve to get cut down a few notches. I mean, every time I turn on Steph Mullen, if for whatever reason he's espousing something completely preposterous, I don't turn him on much, but when I do, man, the guy loses in every opportunity to make any fucking sense. His latest work about, saying that the taxpayers were the victims of Eric Garner because he wasn't paying taxes on his loose cigarettes. My head nearly exploded. I mean, any attempt of his to try and make a discussion surrounding rights has been kind of broken. So, yeah, he deserves the criticism. You want to and so there's some who criticize specific things that they say. I don't criticize Antonio Bueller for specific things that he says. I criticize his overall position as expecting people to censor things that they say and to tailor their message for the sake of the movement. That position, I disagree with. Doesn't matter the words he says. How he managed to relay that message to me and relay that position, I really don't give a shit. His position's wrong as far as I'm concerned. Same is true with the FSP. I don't give a fuck what the leader of the FSP said. At the end of the day, they took a position and their position is wrong. Okay. Now, in the case of MK Lords, I don't believe her position is wrong. I think she's right. I think in a free market, reviews are all you have. Yelp, Angie's List, Google, and every single review board you can find, and every means in which you could put a personal review out there is all there is. That is the regulatory machine of the free market. Reviews. Yeah, I've been on, and now let me take us outside the liberty movement for a moment and let's put us into the culinary movement, where I've gone on Food Network and I've looked at a recipe that looks absolutely divine, and then I read the reviews. Right? It has like 2.5 stars. I'm like, shit, how the hell does something with anything with pralines have 2 stars? So I'm reading the reviews. Okay, well now I know. The outcome is this. You know, the texture is that. The flavor isn't really there the way you'd think. And I'm reading all this stuff, right? All the criticisms of the recipe. Oh, well, crap. All right, I'll go find another recipe. I'm not going to use it. I'll go find something else. So I go find something else. And then there's still the negative reviews. But the negative reviews are even helpful. Even then. Even the bitchiest ones. The ones that just are just, well, you know, if it were me, they would come out like this. And depending on their criticism, I'll either use the recipe or not. I might even use their suggestions to improve upon it. But I need the reviews. I rely on the reviews. I rely on the reviews more than I rely on the fucking FDA. I mean, I'm not going to the FDA site to see what they have to say on shit. I'm relying on somebody who actually had an interaction and an interlude with this particular thing, and I want to know what their experience was. And they have no reason to lie to me. I'm not paying them. You pay Angie's List, but you don't pay the person who reviews. I'm paying the host. But there's absolutely no reason for them to lie to me. They have no reason to be dishonest, other than because they have some sort of vindictive thing against, you know, maybe a personal issue. And you can weed that out. Okay? You weed those out. But it would be, I think both ends, or I think in the case of MK Lords and Chris Cantwell, both sides have it right and both sides have it wrong. I don't think the application of Libertarian welfare queen is particularly accurate, because that pejorative, usually welfare queen, that pejorative refers to, you know, somebody who's on every form of government program they can get their hands on. Right? And I don't believe that even in the private sector, these guys are glomming on to every fucking tit dangling in front of them. Okay? I think that they're asking for donations. But the word welfare itself, to be fair, is not restricted to a government source of aid. I know. It's like I just told a bunch of libertarians that Santa Claus doesn't exist, I guess, because it's true. I'm just using the not so biased source known as dictionary.com, and I'm taking that and I'm saying, okay, well, there are interpretations and definitions of the word welfare that have nothing to do with government aid, but simply receiving aid. Okay. And Cantwell came out with a piece that wanted to make a distinction, almost without a difference in his case, between donations and welfare. In his case, there is no distinction. They are one and the same for him. He is asking for aid. He specifically says as much. I am desperate for money. Hook a brother up if you like my shit. I'm paraphrasing. But yeah, that's what he does. He's literally asking for money. I would even go so far as to say he might be panhandling. Virtually. Right? But that's crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is panhandling. And that's okay. It's fine. We won't call it panhandling. We'll call it fundraising. Okay? And when you fundraise, what happens? Well, I've seen fundraisers like, I think, the Jerry Lewis Telethon and PBS. Okay? You know, PBS is also publicly funded, but it's also privately funded. And when you reach certain thresholds, you get certain little consolation prizes. I remember PBS once having a fundraiser saying that if you donate $50, you get a t-shirt, $100, you get a poster, and and I think at $1,000 you get a collection of a program series collection of some sort, VHS tapes at the time. And I'm not spending $50 on the t-shirt. You might be giving me a t-shirt because I donated $50, but I'm not buying a $50 t-shirt that says PBS when I give $50 to PBS. Okay, I haven't, by the way. I don't give to things that receive government funds, but I'm giving an example here. But I'm not buying a $50 t-shirt. I'm paying $50 to the cause that is PBS, right? I'm paying for this programming. I want it to continue, and I want it to continue commercial free, so I'm willing to give you $50 for that. Okay? That's my cause. The cause isn't the t-shirt. Same with Cantwell. Cantwell has made it very clear that what you're doing is you're supporting the cause of Chris Cantwell. You're paying for his self-actualization as a blogger. If that carries any value for you, then throw your money at him. I'm not condemning it. I don't condemn any form of panhandling and fundraising, short of government funded, right? In the private sector, however you want to raise your money, you raise your fucking money. Hustle. Hustle. But the fact of the matter is that she did call him out. He's saying, I'm selling my writing. No, you're not selling your writing. You're fundraising for Chris Cantwell, and you're offering the $50 t-shirt in exchange. Okay, you're offering this thing, this, in your case it's in his case it's his writing. But what you're really asking for is money. You need money to support yourself. And you've said as much, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're going to own this completely, and we're going to say that Chris Cantwell is saying, okay, I'm the guy who's going to wash your windows in exchange for a donation on the street. That you're that guy. It's that guy, okay? For better or for worse. I'm not qualifying it. I'm simply saying what it is. The guy who cleans your windows on the street with a piece of newspaper and Windex, you're not buying a window cleaning. You're allowing him to do something in exchange for the money. But you feel you should give him something, okay? And so you allow him to wash your windows. I'm gonna let Chris Cantwell do his spiel, and and then we're gonna give him money or whatever amount. I haven't given him money, okay? But that's the basic exchange. This is not like toilet paper. Toilet paper knows its worth. Toilet paper has a price. It's not donation based. It has a price. It knows exactly what it's worth and how much it costs. And it tells it to you, and you can either buy it or not. It's very simple. Okay, and there are many subscription based things on the internet. The Economist, I think, allows you 5 free pieces and then a month, and then you have to subscribe if you want to read more. There's a couple of publications like that. I think there's parts of Wall Street Journal that are that way. There's the subscription-based articles, and then there's the open source articles. They do that. Nothing wrong with it. Okay, I don't condemn it, but for all intents and purposes, this is welfare. Donation-based stuff is welfare. You're asking for aid. The fact that it's private aid as opposed to government aid is a distinction without a difference, other than the fact that the means by which you collect it, right? One entails force, which to me is criminal, and one entails voluntary action, which is not criminal. But it is welfare nonetheless. It's aid. Okay? And it's not bad. I'm simply saying what it is. Okay? So when you have these guys out there asking for money, and it's all well and good, but then it goes further. There's the person who is the career activist who's constantly asking for bail money. Now, for me, there's no value in paying a ransom to the state. For me, including if I ever got arrested. You've already got enough from me. I'm not giving you bail money to boot. Okay? The money goes to the state. I'm not paying the state. My mortal enemy. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it for anybody. I wouldn't bail my own kid out. Okay, so there's no bail happening here. Kelly doesn't pay ransoms. Kelly does not negotiate with terrorists. End of story. For anyone. Okay, so there's that. Kelly gives money to people. Kelly's given money to people before. Sometimes with strings attached. Sometimes not. Sometimes just as a gift. But at some point, if you're going to be an activist seeking money because you know your shit's getting in trouble, I would suggest putting money away for that. Go work, hoard your money, create a bail fund, and then go do your activism. Okay? I don't personally benefit from people protesting. I don't. Just like I don't benefit from you writing to your congressman and writing petitions. So I don't see any value in it, so I don't support it. If you want to go be an activist and you want to go get arrested and or you're saying, oh, I didn't want to get arrested. Okay, but you ran into the lion's den, the lion's den bit you. You know, the lion bit you. Was that totally unforeseen? That's like the woman that says, I had sex, I didn't know I was going to get pregnant. You didn't? How do you think you get pregnant? Well, I went to a protest and confronted cops. I didn't know I was going to get arrested. You didn't? The odds were not even there? Really? You kind of just went in there thinking you were going to walk away? It's a cop. What the fuck were you thinking? You know? Okay, so first time, shame on them, but second time, shame on you. If this is your life and that's the choice you want to make, that's great, but I personally don't see the value in it. Okay? So, to me, if people are constantly asking for money, and I don't care why, if you're constantly asking for money to bail you out of any situation, be it from the cops or otherwise, to me it seems like there's financial issues. There's you don't have your shit together. And if it were me, the string that would be attached to my money, and I'd bail you straight the fuck out. You wouldn't have to collect it from various sources. I'll give you the fucking check. But on my terms. And the contingency is that I see your fucking books. And we balance your budget so that this shit doesn't happen again. Otherwise, you can continue to panhandle and collect it quarter at a time to see if you can get your ass out of the situation. But that's the spectrum. Ranging from straight up commerce, I have a price, you don't want to pay it, then don't fucking buy my shit, to donation-based services, which has a cause, and the cause is whoever, the cause is not liberty. You're not buying liberty, okay? You're paying for somebody to create a message about liberty, okay? But you're not paying for liberty itself. You're not paying for all things liberty. You're paying for Molyneux to pay his fucking mortgage. You're paying for Chris Cantwell to pay his electric bill. You're paying, that's not liberty. Liberty is doing whatever it is you feel is right. Okay. And so I defend that. But I don't defend but I also don't want to over romanticize what activism is. Okay. And I certainly don't want to, it's certainly not absolved from being welfare. It is welfare, by definition, for better or for worse. How you want to qualify that is entirely up to you, but I welcome anybody who's willing to sit there and create a slaughterhouse of sacred cows and cut them down and give them as much criticism as humanly possible. I would take all the criticism in the world, but for criticism, most of us wouldn't be in the fucking liberty movement anyway. We wouldn't be the liberty-minded people that we are, but for criticism. Somebody criticized your way of thinking. Somebody called you out at some point in your life. You felt convicted to challenge yourself. That's what this is. Consider this refiner's fire. You're not a welfare queen for asking for help, but it is welfare nonetheless. Humble yourselves a little bit. All right. Happy New Year. And we'll catch you next week. Bye.